Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 12th realistic fiction lesson. Today we're going to read the next chapter in Frog and Toad Are Friends, and I want you to answer these three questions. I will set up an activity on Dojo, so you can either number your white line paper in your journal and take a picture and submit it that way, or you can type it out on the computer and answer it that way, whatever works best for you. There's no worksheet today. So I'm going to try this out a little bit more to see, because I can ask you more direct questions, and sometimes the worksheets aren't always the best. So these are the three questions I want you thinking about, and I want you to answer. What was Frog's problem? So Frog has a problem in this chapter. Number 2, what was Toad's problem? Toad has a problem in the chapter too. So both of them have a problem. So you're going to have to state the answer to those. Try to write in a complete sentence. Turn the question around. Frog's problem was. Toad's problem was. And then lastly, number 3, how did their problems get solved? So Frog solved his problem. How? Toad's problem got solved. How? So those are your 3 questions. Post it in the Dojo activity. Think about it while you listen to me read, and we will begin our chapter. Dad behind the camera. Dad, say hi.
Hello, kids.
This chapter is called The Story. One day in summer, Frog was not feeling well. Toad said,
"Frog, you're looking quite green."
"But I always look green," said Frog. "I'm a frog."
"Today you look very green, even for a frog,"
said Toad.
"Get into my bed and rest."
Toad made Frog a cup of hot tea. Frog drank the tea, and then he said, Tell me a story while I'm resting." Almost mixed up my voices there. So I can already tell Frog's problem here. Toad seems like a nice friend. What a nice Toad.
"All right,"
said Toad.
"let me think of a story to tell you."
Toad thought and thought and thought, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog.
"I'll go out on the front porch and walk up and down,"
said Toad.
"Perhaps that will help me think of a story."
Toad walked up and down on the porch for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad went into the house and stood on his head. "Why are you standing on your head?" asked Frog.
"I hope if I stand on my head, it will help me think of a story,"
said Toad. Toad stood on his head for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. I question Toad's problem-solving skills. I have never thought to stand on my head to think of something, but maybe that works. Maybe the blood just rushes to your head and you'll come up with great ideas. Dad, what do you do when you need to think of how to solve a problem?
I close my eyes and put my head back in my car.
There you go.
Yeah,
So maybe you should do that. Well, I don't know.
Not while I'm driving, though.
Yeah, don't do it while you're driving, kids. Then Toad poured a glass of water over his head. "Why are you pouring water over your head?" asked Frog.
"I hope if I pour water over my head, it will help me think of a story,"
said Toad. Toad poured many glasses of water over his head, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. I think just watching Toad try to think of a story is a fun enough story in itself. You know, watching him go. He's pouring water over his head. I think I've tried that. I splash water, think of something. So I understand that one a little bit more than standing on your head. Then Toad began to bang his head against the wall. "Why are you banging your head against the wall?" asked Frog.
"I hope if I bang my head against the wall hard enough, it will help me think of a story,"
said Toad. "I am feeling much better now, Toad," said Frog. "I do not think I need a story anymore."
"Then you get out of bed and let me go into it,"
said Toad.
"because now I feel terrible."
Frog said, "Would you like me to tell you a story, Toad?"
"Yes,"
said Toad,
"if you know one."
So we have our roles have changed. Frog said he feels better. Now who doesn't feel well? Toad. Maybe you shouldn't bang your head against the wall, Toad. You will feel better. "Once upon a time," said Frog, "there were 2 good friends, a frog and a toad. The frog was not feeling well. He asked his friend the toad to tell him a story. The toad could not think of a story. He walked up and down on the porch, but he could not think of a story. He stood on his head, but he could not think of a story. He poured water over his head, but he could not think of a story. He banged his head against the wall, but he could not think of a story. Then the toad did not feel so well, and the frog was feeling better. So the toad went to bed, and the frog got up and told him a story. The end. How was that, Toad? Said Frog. But Toad did not answer. He had fallen asleep. And that's the end of our second chapter. Remember our questions before we started our chapter. What was Frog's problem? Frog had a problem right in the beginning. What was Toad's problem? Toad had a problem in the beginning too, and towards the end. So I think Toad might have even had like 2 problems. And then how were their problems solved? So you're going to number this, try to answer it in complete sentences, turn the question around, and then watch tomorrow for our next read aloud video. Thank you.